So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Eazy Conversations. Thanks a lot to everyone who listened to the last episode featuring the homie Matt and my cousin Dan. Dan, you absolutely killed it on here, and we look forward to having you on again down the road. It's now for episode 121 of Eazy Conversations. I'm extremely excited, of course, to be back in the studio virtually with the homie Matt. Say what's up to the people.
What's going on, everybody? Hope you're having a great time. It's going to be a great episode tonight. We have a guest that every time he's on, it's a great episode. So, Eric, why don't you tell everybody who it is?
Yep, making his 5th appearance on the podcast and coming back to a previous episode that was recorded 3 years ago when he made his first mention of the genre that we're going to be discussing today. So pretty monumental that we've been able to go from back then when this was kind of more foreign to Matt and myself to now today. All this to say, bringing back for the 5th time on the program, the homie Kurtis Daigle. Say what's up to the people.
What's going on, everyone? Glad to be back. Eric, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but you might want to recount those appearance numbers, because I thought I was at 6.
Damn it.
But yeah, I mean, glad to be back if it's 5 or 6, and really excited to be completely in my element today. So yeah, should be fun.
No, honestly, that's hand up. That's on me. You've got me. I was even doing this is sloppy hostmanship on my part because I actually wasn't sure if it was 5th or 6th beforehand, but did not commit the necessary research to go through the catalog of our 120 previous episodes and see where you slotted into those ones. And I guess one has eluded me. There's the first one, the comedy movie episode, the one where you joined my brother and I to talk some hockey, the Hidden Gems episode, the comedy characters draft, and then I cannot think, what's the other one?
Would you rather?
Oh my god, that's an iconic episode too. That's huge slip up on me. So anyone who hasn't heard Kurtis's past work, just run it back. Those are all great episodes, so I'll have to run that one back. That was a great one. Episode 101, if memory serves. Which
you remember that, but not.
The mind works in mysterious ways. Best not to try to understand mine. So yeah, for episode 121, like I mentioned in your intro, long-winded intro there, Kurtis, you had mentioned a penchant for the anime, film, and TV genre. So for this episode, we're going over the One Piece live-action rendition of the very famous long-running anime One Piece. So as you may know, Netflix just released a big show called One Piece this year. It was one that was initially met with concern based on the notion that people didn't think they could adapt One Piece correctly onto the screen live action, that it was best served on the anime or manga mediums, but we'll discuss the show tonight and see whether or not they did a good job adapting it from the page to the screen. So another long-winded intro on my part. Kurtis, I'll hand the floor over to you first as our resident anime expert. What were your thoughts on the One Piece live-action rendition of One Piece?
I think you introduced the subject and the topic pretty well. I'll start out pretty broadly. Actually, before I start, I'll just kind of mention that so I am on the anime of One Piece, so I've seen the initial the initial script, so to speak, and I've seen it play out over the years. I've actually watched the show for about 15 years now, and it started airing back in 1999. So I did start when there was about 350 episodes already out. I have only caught up to current once, and that was at around episode 900. But I have admittedly slacked a bit. So one of the greatest shows of all time in the anime realm. Wow. And I think that for the first time, I think a lot of anime fans can agree that for the first time, maybe ever, we've seen a live action rendition that has actually done the original justice. I'm interested to discuss it more with you guys, but I think, just both from a fan of the show and for new fans, like I think like you guys are, I think it was just an entertaining show. I think they did a really good job of having the original, still keeping things a little fun and fresh.
Okay, Matt, I lost Kurtis there for a bit. I don't know about you.
Yeah, me too.
Okay.
Same.
All right. Was having internet connectivity issues leading up to this recording, so hopefully I haven't fully lost him, but if so, would give us a chance to maybe restart, and then I can correctly introduce him as being on the pod 6 times, not 5. But
Dropped out now. Do you want to keep talking like as if we were recording?
Yeah, I guess we could. We'll see what he says, because this is
Almost 8.
It's getting dicey here. If this is the episode that we end up using, this is gonna look quite funny on YouTube. As if you watch on YouTube.
On
no,
YouTube.
I don't edit on YouTube. Like the audio, no one will see this. But if you're watching on YouTube, you're seeing this struggle in real time, and I mean that's how the pirate gods intended it to be. So.
All right. Well. Oh.
Is he back?
Okay, keep going, Kurtis.
Or.
I stopped my recording when I noticed that I had cut off, but I did answer the question.
You did.
Sorry, guys. I think my actual internet just like kicked back in.
Okay.
And off of the
hotspot.
Do you want to start recording again, and we can just keep it going then, so we don't need to restart, kind of thing?
Yeah, like I could just I pretty much finished that question, so I don't know if it's possible for us to just keep going or.
Well, I was gonna ask
still
now.
Recording and you answered everything. Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So, are you recording again now? Your audio, like, have you restarted recording?
No, I paused it to.
Okay. Do you want to start recording again, and we can just keep the episode flow going? Because like the video recording on YouTube, like I don't edit this at all. So if you're watching on YouTube, you're seeing a full breakdown behind the scenes of how it looks. And we'll just slice this audio in from the moment you restart recording into the audio portion. We can just keep going with the video at the same time. So I could just hand it over to Matt now to answer, but you could just restart your audio recording, and I'll just add this into the audio file, if that makes sense.
Yeah, like you mean just like restart from where I paused, right?
Pretty much, yeah.
Restart from
Yeah.
But not like full answer again, kind of thing, like a wrapping it up situation.
Oh, sorry. Okay, I'm confused. Like, what do you want me to say? Because my recording has everything.
Okay.
My recording has my answer.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know. Like, you could basically just like kick it over to Matt now.
Okay.
And like I basically just said, I don't know where I cut off, but I basically just said, I gave a summary of like how I've watched the original show, and that we finally got a live rendition that does the original justice. Okay. I'm excited to hear what your guys' thoughts are, being kind of new fans to the show. But they did a really good job with the characters, and they kept it kind of loyal or like faithful while keeping it a little new and fresh, and excited to see what they continue to do with the show. So.
Okay. So.
Okay, perfect.
Great opening thoughts, Kurtis. Matt, what was your initial reaction to One Piece based on going into it? What did you expect, and then what did it end up being for you once you dove in there?
Well, I didn't even know what One Piece was, to be honest, until I was hearing all this talk on social media about, like, even people at work that are big anime fans were talking about One Piece, and like, I hope it's not a disappointment. This is a really important show, and like an old show. And then, so I went in so blind, like you wouldn't even believe. I didn't even know it was about like pirates or finding treasure. Like I didn't know anything about One Piece. Could have been sci-fi for all I knew. I ended up really, really liking the show a lot. My favorite thing about the show, just opening thoughts, is like I love the world of the show, like all the different places, the different characters, how like how stylistic it is, and how they made like how they kept the anime elements live action, like kind of like stuff that would never happen in real life. But it's based on an anime, it's fine. But yeah, my opening thoughts is I was very impressed by the show. What about you, Eric?
Yeah, similar boat, pun intended, to you, Matt, in that I really didn't know much about this show at all. My introduction to it was basically I listened to a podcast where a few of the guys on there are really into anime, and they would talk about like, oh, One Piece, the new trailer just dropped for it, and they're bashing it based on being big fans of the anime and thinking that it looked very bad. So then I watched the trailer myself, not knowing anything about it. I was like, yeah, this looks horrible. Like I thought it looked very goofy, and yeah, I even thought the production value wasn't great. But when I was into the show, based on having heard a lot of people say it was really good, I was like, all right, I'll give this a shot. And I was a big fan of it, even though at times it did look a little goofy, and like even the action sometimes felt like a bit comic book or anime ish and looked a little funny at times. I completely excused it, if you will, and was all in on the ride the whole time. Like you, love the setting. The pirate world, I feel like, is something we just don't see much of. I don't know why. I'm like Pirates of the Caribbean is really the only series I can think of that's set in this universe, and this has like some mystical elements to it as well, with the like the powers and all that, which I found like just really cool to see, and fun to watch like the different variety of characters that we had on there. So no, big fan. It also reminded me of the iconic GameCube game Legend of Zelda Wind Waker, where you're just on a boat going from one corner of the sea to the other, and trying to become the king of the pirates, as Monkey D. Luffy ever so reminds us every episode that that's his plight. But yeah, no, opening thoughts, big fan of the show. Yeah, I mean, do we want to get into like what we like the most about it? Curtis, obviously you've followed the anime more than us by a lot. What did you like the most about the live action rendition of One Piece?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think you know, after watching the show, I kind of asked myself like like what made it successful as a standalone, just like an entertaining TV show, and then what made it successful as like a live action rendition of something that already existed, right? So I think what I enjoyed, I mean, I love the original story, so to see it kind of come to life and told in a bit of a different way, I thought was really neat. It was to me like the anticipation of kind of knowing what was coming with some of like the really powerful scenes at the beginning, like just some notable ones, like you know, the big Shanks scene, or like Sanji's you know, like Sanji's backstory, you know, like those big ones, kind of Nami's you know, like cry for help almost like near the end of the first season, like just super emotional, powerful moments. Seeing them kind of come to life was really neat. I think they did a lot of things right with keeping to the original, you know, and there's a lot of things that I think make this a successful rendition. I think they consulted the mangaka, like the creator of the manga for One Piece, on almost everything, and he kind of had final say when they created the show. So if he didn't like what was going on screen, they oftentimes would have to kind of scrap it and redo it and present it back to him.
Wow.
And he really is the, you know, the genius behind creating the world, creating the characters, and just like, you know, he's what's kept it going for this whole time, right? So to have him be so involved in the process, I think was one of the reasons why it made it as successful as it was. So there's a lot of things that I think, make it a successful and entertaining show. That's just some of them. But I think my biggest thing, I think they nailed the characters too. I think the characters just shone on screen. So yeah, I know I said a lot. There's a lot to talk about, but that's just the part of why I thought it was so successful.
Nice. Do you want me to go next here?
Yeah. What about you?
The two main things that got me hooked, that why I love the show, is the little more basically the potential of this show. They gave us little morsels on how big the world is, and little things characters mention, just them talking about the warlords of the sea, and I don't know anything about that, but I'm curious. This show made me so curious enough to maybe even read up on more or even watch the anime, which take me all my life. And that got me really wanting to watch the next episode, just little stuff on how big this world is and the world building. 2, I love the villains, quote unquote villains in this show, Buggy, Garp, Axehand Morgan, Arlong, my favorite, Dracul Mihawk, so badass. All the villains, all those colorful characters, and they're different, I didn't know what to expect after a while. I was man, they're going to throw something at me, and I'm not even going to, can't even anticipate it. It's so great. I loved all that. That, kept me hooked. Even the butler, the fake butler, and Clahador, or however you say his name, he was pretty cool. I like villains, too. I'm like Eric. So, that kept me interested in every episode, all the different bad guys. Big reason why I love the show. And the good guys are good, too, but, like Kurtis, like you said, the characters are phenomenal. They're what make the show. So those are the two big things for me. What about you, Eric?
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with a lot of what you both said there. Obviously, I was a huge fan of the villains as well. The world was unreal, but I like the story a lot as well, honestly. That's probably the one thing that stood out to me the most, is just where this is going and where it went in this one season, where we did cover a lot of ground and sea in this season. And the different settings that we got to see episode to episode, I found were always super cool. The fish restaurant, or the restaurant in the sea there, I found I enjoyed that arc. The mansion with the cat butler, waiter, whatever, that scum. I hated that guy too. He was a good villain, but Clawdor, I was not a fan. The clown arc, like I said, we covered a lot of ground, and I was always intrigued in wanting to know what was going to happen there. And from my understanding, they basically compacted a lot of episodes from the anime into those live-action episodes to make them more concise and have more action happen quicker rather than a lot of filler, which is what I understand is maybe in the anime at times. But yeah, the story kept me hooked the whole time. This is a show I could have easily binged in a weekend, but I had to show self-control and watch an episode every 2 nights or whatever, because like you, Matt, I'm also extremely curious now, and I can't wait for season 2, but unfortunately I know I'm going to have to wait probably till 2025 for season 2, and now I'm just going to have to ponder whether I want to commit to the anime, watch 1,500 episodes. Doubtful, to be honest, because I do want to continue to be curious and just wait to see what will come down the road. But yeah, and like I said earlier too, the pirate setting is just really cool off the top. Love how they told the story as well, with a lot of flashbacks, and it wasn't over the top where the flashbacks didn't dominate episodes, except for the Sanji one. I think that one covered a lot of the running time of the episode, but that was a great one. That was probably the most emotional one, right? That was a crazy moment. Yeah. I mean, I think we're all on the same page on what we liked about this show. There's a lot to love here.
I want to add on what Matt was saying, and I'm really happy to hear that those things kind of hooked you guys, because they do sort of give little tidbits of what's to come, and I kind of take it for granted, kind of seeing seeing the whole world and kind of knowing what is out there. So when I watch the show, it's almost like I don't get that. But it's cool to hear that you guys, like, it kind of like tantalizes you a little bit. And you're bang on with your anticipation, like all those little tidbits that they drop, like it's intentional, right? But it's also like, it just like it even opening your eyes to what's to come. That's still just a fraction of of the world that that will unfold. Like think about how many episodes there are. Like this, I think this show covered about 50 episodes of the anime, and there's like close to 1,200 out right now, right? So it's they did a really good job of compacting it and telling the story, but at the same time, it's so vast. It's bigger than you can even imagine it is right now. But I also wanted to touch on the villains, and I think that they did such a good job with the villains in the show. And something that you guys might not know is that like One Piece villains in the anime are almost like notoriously known for being like clowny, and that's not like a pun towards Buggy. They're just like not like your typical badass, like sort of like the cool sort of villain that they're bad, but you kind of like root for them. Like One Piece villains are sort of known for just not really being super intimidating, like in the anime. There's not a lot that have like a really cool aesthetic design. But what they did in the live action was, I think they made like almost all of the villains like just stand out really, really well. So I think that's something they actually like not just improved a little bit. I think they improved like an immense amount, and they made the villains just like, in my opinion, the villains like stole the show on multiple occasions in the live action. So I am happy to hear that you thought that, and it's quite the contrast to the anime. So one of the areas where they definitely improved.
Okay, so I could definitely see where like a waiter who is a cat can be like kind of goofy looking and like not really intimidating, whereas in this show like that guy was terrifying. And I'm just guessing here that he's one of the ones that you're referring to was a bit goofy in the anime, like with his claws and all that, and like just maybe whiskers in the animated version, I don't know. But in this one, like he was a sinister villain, like just clawing through the walls as they were kind of going through the hidden tunnels and all that. And as I have my cat here, who's an absolute menace as I'm trying to record. But so cats can be terrifying as well, but also cute. But
Actually,
what's her?
Yeah, like Kuro, like the captain of the Black Cats, wasn't a terrible villain. But if you look at like Buggy and his impact in the anime, Buggy was one of my least favorite characters in the anime. Like I would go so far as to say I hated Buggy. Every time Buggy came on screen, I was like, oh man, like this guy. And then when we were watching the live action, I was like, kind of like expecting the same thing. I was like, oh man, this guy. Like I knew Buggy was coming, and when I saw him, I was expecting just like this, I don't know, this like not super high value character. What we got from Buggy like was like incredible. I can't believe how much value that actor brought to the rendition by how he pulled off Buggy. I was super impressed.
I wanted more Buggy, honestly. Like every time he kept popping up, I was fired up. I was like, let's go, the guy's back. Yeah, that's credit to the actor, honestly, and probably the writing, the screenwriting as well. Like they elevated that character from the anime to the show. But no, he was great. He reminded me of someone too. I can't really place it, but I've never seen this actor in anything. He was really good. And one thing I like that they did in this as well is unless I'm mistaken, I don't think they killed any of the villains either. Like they kind of kept them around so they could pop up down the road. Maybe Arlong, I feel like he's the only one we don't see at the end of the season, whether or not he's alive or not. But I'm happy that they kept like Buggy around. Even the woman pirate in the first episode, Alvida, I want to say is her name. Yeah, so yeah, that's it. And
to me, like Arlong was the highlight for me for the villains. Well, him and Dracul. I don't even know if Dracul Mihawk's a villain. Like he seems pretty like a lone wolf, does his own thing. But I don't know. But yeah, Arlong, every scene with Arlong to me, I was like glued to the screen. But that was like the finale of the season. So, but Curtis, you said this season is 50 episodes of the anime. Is that correct? Wow.
Yeah, I think it's like between 50 and 60. So when I was talking to Eric before, I think it's like a rough like 5%.
Okay.
Or something. So yeah, I don't know. Like I'm hopeful. Season 1 was fantastic, but I don't know what direction they're going to go moving forward, right? Because it's just not going to be possible to cover everything.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So either, they pick a spot and they stop there, or they skip a bunch and try to wrap things up. I think either way, you just enjoy the ride, right? But it's interesting to know that there's too much content to cover it all on a live action TV show. So should be interesting to see what they do.
I'm excited to see the direction they go in, honestly, and to see whether or not Luffy will become King of the Pirates and find the One Piece. Or I guess it'd be the other way around, find the One Piece to become King of the Pirates. And something we had discussed going into the episode was to do a character draft, something Curtis are familiar with. And that would also give us the opportunity to talk about the different characters that One Piece has in its arsenal. We've kind of gotten into a few of the villains there, but now we can go over the other ones that have not been touched on yet. So, again, to determine our order, I'll whip out the trusty wheel that only I can see at this point in time. But if you're watching on YouTube, just like and subscribe. That helps us a lot. You'll see who will be picking when. Actually, and I'll say, okay, so it's going to land on... Oh, so close. Almost you, Curtis. So, Matt, you'll be deciding what pick you want to have.
That's a good way to do it.
All right, which character am I picking first?
No. Sorry. I mean, which pick do you want to have? Like, do you want to pick first, second, or third?
I'll pick first.
You'll pick first?
Snake?
Okay. Sounds good. Yeah, Sneak.
Okay.
So now...
I know we're doing a draft, but like this is gonna be a good exercise in highlighting the strength of these characters in this show and talking about them. But that said, I will draft the 4 best ones, in my opinion. I'll try to.
All right, so it landed on me next, so I will be going classic, right? What are the odds Matt and I get to choose where we want to go before you, Curtis? It's not rigged at all. I'm going to pick... I'll go second, and you can have back-to-back.
Okay, so honestly, I'm going to pick the character that, like, if you don't like him, you're not hooked in the show because he has the most screen time. I'm picking Monkey D. Luffy first, and I'll explain why.
Monkey?
I'm picking Monkey first.
Don't call him Monkey.
Yeah, Curtis doesn't like that.
I'm picking Luffy first, and here's why. If I didn't like this character, I would have never have continued watching the show. His unflinching optimism and happy-go-lucky nature was perfectly portrayed by the actor who plays him. I can't remember his name, but he really stuck with me, and I grew to like him even more and more every episode. And you know what? Like, he grew on his crewmates too. He keeps calling them a crew, and they're like, we're not a crew. But the more he says it, the more he's willing it into fruition, into it actually happening. And the more times he says he's gonna find the One Piece, I believe him more and more. He has the most screen time we see. I loved his character, and I saw more sides of him in the later half of the season where he got more serious. I like seeing more serious Luffy too, where he's fighting for his friends. Anyways, I'm not going to talk about him all day. I'm picking Luffy first. He's the main character of the show. He was great. The actor played him greatly. Yeah, Luffy. Go ahead, Eric.
Great pick, Matt. I'll say right off the rip, I was not sold on Luffy right away as I got into this show. I definitely liked him and thought, I respected his unwavering positivity, and I think that might be an intended effect of the characteristic. He's not what you're used to seeing in everyday life kind of thing, kind of like a Ted Lasso, where eventually he just gets to you and you're just enthralled by the positivity. I think that's a good way, like a good comparison for Luffy. And he got to me. Definitely by the end of the season, I'm all in on Luffy, no doubt. And like you, Matt, I completely, like in my mind, I don't envision a scenario where he doesn't become King of the Pirates. Like, it's inevitable. And I think the rest of the crew will also accomplish their dreams unless some of them get shanked down the road. If they follow Monkey D. Luffy's lead, they will be able to achieve their full potential. And he's just a good vibes guy, honestly. Like, he is hard to hate, even though I tried as best as I could. The actor who plays him also killer. I love that they went with an unknown for the most part with the entire cast. And he's doing his thing. I'm a Luffy guy. I had him ranked 3 though, so I'm happy my number 1's still on the board. I'll just say that. But Kurtis, thoughts on Luffy?
Yeah, and I know we can't dive deep into every character because there's just too many that we're gonna go. But I can't let you guys pass by me without chiming in on Luffy. So Luffy for me, probably I would say like top 3 favorite characters of all time of any anime. And it's such a difficult role, and what you guys, and I'm like, Matt, you just like nailed it, because like that is Luffy, and I'm really happy that someone who hasn't seen the original version of Luffy still like was able to extract like what Luffy is all about, like exactly what you said. But he's such a difficult character to portray, because for me, like, Luffy is the perfect combination of, like, he's hilarious, but he's also like one of the most badass characters that you'll ever see. And like, what I love about him is his resolve, and he's all fun and games until someone messes with his friends. And when someone messes with his friends, he becomes just like this unstoppable force. So obviously, like, live action Luffy didn't get to, I don't think he really got to like portray that side of Luffy as much, like, so far. But when he did, I think he did a good job of showing that sort of like the contrast in the character. And it's like, you don't see a lot of characters like that can go from just like really goofy and like almost dumb to being like the hardest guy out there, right? So yeah, like an all-time character, and I love that he went first. So
yeah, no, that's a good pick, Matt, for sure. I am not surprising that I feel like Kurtis would have taken Luffy first as well. Obviously, he's a top 3 character anime in his books. I think I'm the only one who wouldn't have taken Luffy first. So I'm happy this guy fell to me at number 2. I'm gonna go with Zoro here. Just in my opinion, most badass character in the show, save for maybe Mihawk, who is the greatest swordsman allegedly, or one of them, the 7 warlords, but we'll get to him later most likely. But no, Zoro is just like your traditional badass silent type in anime genre who kind of leads the way in terms of the action on the protagonist side. He had the coolest fight scenes, and just his fighting style I'm a big fan of. Like the 2 swords, Ahsoka style, very cool. And then when he throws that 3rd one in his mouth, like Nezuko has that piece of wood in Demon Slayer in her mouth. That's just over the top, right? Like, you can't mess with that. But I'm curious to see what his fighting style is going to look like also in the future seasons without his 3 swords. But in this season, I was always a fan of him. I would have been shocked if he got killed in that fight scene with Mihawk, but I also would have been mad if he won that fight scene. So I'm glad it ended up going that route, where he still has stages to reach in terms of becoming the greatest swordsman, and hopefully he's able to achieve that goal down the road. But yeah, just a pretty simple character so far, not too much underneath the surface other than like his backstory that we got, which I enjoyed, and would like to see something develop with him and Nami down the road. Who knows if that'll happen, but that's just an early season call. I've been known to make a lot of bad calls like that, so we'll see where that goes. But yeah, Zoro, he reminds me of my favorite character in Attack on Titan, Levi, silent assassin. So that's why right away I gravitated towards this character. So Zoro, 2nd overall pick, no brainer in my books.
Yeah.
Good Go ahead, Nick, Curtis.
I won't dwell on it too much, but Zoro is another all-time character. The three sword style is definitely more feasible in an anime setting than in real life. But I mean, I thought they still like made it work, and it looked pretty badass, especially when he throws his bandana on. You know, it's go time.
Yep.
The one like I do like. It's a small criticism, but I think like the one criticism, if I'm not looking at it with rose-colored glasses, I would say that I do think the actor was just like he was just trying to be a little too cool for me. And you know, I'm used to one version of Zoro, and Zoro is he's not really soft-spoken in the anime. He's quiet. But he has that raspy kind of like powerful presence when he does speak. And I know it's hard to portray, like, you know, and you're not going to do 1-to-1, and you probably shouldn't even do like a 1-to-1 comparison, right? But it was just, you know, just how the actor kind of like, he spoke kind of like under his breath and almost in a whisper, to seem like, you know, solemn and kind of like, yeah, exactly. I thought like if you can nitpick something about it being a little corny, I think that would be it. But, you know, still a great choice. And Zoro might be top 5 for me all time. So he's right up there with Luffy.
Yeah, highlight of the action scenes really for me, like great stuff. What do you have, Curtis, for your first?
Man,
you got two back to back. So
yeah. I wasn't really thinking I was gonna, you know, obviously I was hoping I was gonna get an earlier pick, but I also didn't write anything down, so I'm going into this based on my confidence and knowledge of the show. So,
which is greater than ours, so I'm not too worried for you.
Things might slip. And this, you know, this isn't any particular order because I guess I get 3, 4, so I'm just gonna pick. I'm gonna pick Sanji and I'm gonna pick Buggy as my as my 2 choices. Yeah, so Sanji doesn't get, and you know, I might be a little biased because I've seen more of Sanji, and he doesn't get a ton of screen time. But like a couple of us mentioned already, like I love Sanji's dream, you know, and I think everyone has amazing resolve in the crew, and I think that's kind of what makes it so cool, is that like everyone has resolve towards something different, but they come together, right? And I don't know, I love the way he was introduced. I love his backstory, and I think the character, he might be one of the closest like 1-to-1 copies of the character. I think they nailed the look. The accent was interesting to me.
Right.
You know, and that's not like it's not a knock, but I just thought the accent was his accent was interesting. But I think like they nailed the look and just the overall vibe that Sanji gives. And Buggy, I've already said it, you know, just an amazing build. Like he almost, and this is like really high praise, but he almost gave me like a Joker vibe.
Yeah.
With like
for sure.
The right, like the sinister, but like, you know, it's got like that crazy side to him as well. And like it kind of like gets uncovered as things move forward that he's a little bit more goofy than he is like sinister and like evil. But like, man, like even just I think like one of his first lines when he's talking about like, that's my map and I have to have it, like just the delivery, and he's like kind of sitting sideways in his chair, and just amazing. Like I can't say it enough how well the actor did. So yeah, those are my 2. I'm pretty happy with those, even though I'm going 3, 4.
Yeah, those are super solid, Curtis. Sanji, I really liked his character. I felt the show really picked up like once we get to the restaurant, we're introduced to him. Loved his martial art fighting skill, like no weapons, just kicking all those fishmen in the ass. That was cool. That got like heavy. I got heavy anime vibes from that scene, like at the end where he's just kicking the shit out of them. Like, how is he doing this? Doesn't matter. It's an anime live action. Buggy, yes, Joker vibes. You nailed it. I didn't even think of that till now, but that's absolutely it. And the whole time I was watching Buggy, I was like, how is he like commanding all these people? Like, why is he so strong? And then they show like his like devil fruit power or whatever. pretty badass. He's indestructible almost. So, no, like good picks, Curtis.
Yeah.
What do you think of them, Eric?
Good picks for sure. We've talked about Buggy. Me too. Like he reminds me of kind of a mix of both Joaquin Phoenix's and Heath Ledger's Joker. Like I can't lean one way more than the other. I feel like it's a mix in the middle of them both, honestly. And Sanji, I was a big fan of, honestly. Someone I would have liked to draft as well. Loved his story, like I already said, in the flashback scene with the chef, Zeph, I believe, was very good. And then to see him grow up, like just whipping up in the kitchen. Like I've recently gotten back into the cooking game. Maybe Sanji's influence from One Piece is getting to me inspired to cook again. I don't know, but it's satisfying watching people cook on the screen, either a YouTube video or in a TV series like this. And whatever he made always looked mouth-watering and just delicious. So, no, great. And I like this fighting style as well. I also like the kind of rivalry between him and Zoro. Like, he's, like, openly trying to get Nami, I feel like. Or just pretty much any girl in this universe. Like, he's just all about them. But, he's a good character. Good addition to the crew. I'm a fan for sure. So, my next pick now, I'll go with also someone we've talked about already because I'm pretty sure Matt would take him playing some defense, and I was a big fan of him. Arlong, the killer shark. I just thought he was a badass like final boss for this season. I hope we haven't seen the last of him, honestly, but he was a menace against Luffy in both fight scenes. Honestly, like, he had kind of had to resort to not playing cheap, but like using the elements around him, like the pillars, and bringing the tower down on Arlong to beat him. Like he is otherworldly powers as well, like just brute strength, and the gum attacks just weren't doing much to Arlong. But no, he had a lot of good lines of dialogue as well. Yeah. A lot of references to maybe different just like racial situations in America or in the world in general. I found that his character represented those kind of class dynamics at times that we've seen in society. So like I'm glad that they also touched on those sensitive topics through his character. And just like his fish and shark man army was unreal. He's a cool character. So I'm taking Arlong, my second pick.
Yeah, sorry, Matt. I guess you got poached there.
That's okay.
But Arlong was great. Once again, I think like an upgrade from the original. He was like, Arlong is ruthless, right? And like, some of the stuff they showed with like, well, how he treats Nami and like how he did treat Nami's like mom and stuff like that, and just like the brutal taxes that they impose on people that are like pretty much helpless, right? I don't know. They created like, Buggy is a completely different villain. Like you don't really love to hate Buggy. He's just kind of is. Arlong, like he's a good character, but you also want to see him get his ass kicked, right? Mm-hmm. So yeah, I mean they did a phenomenal job with Arlong.
Yeah, I loved Arlong. Like I already said it, I love him. The scene where he strolls in with his goons at the restaurant, and just the way his air of confidence and like, I am superior to you humans. Like we are the superior race. Like it's amazing. Like I loved it. The actor who portrayed him did a great job. I love his look. He looked like hulking in his swordfish nose, like his nose, like a. Yeah. Anyways, good pick, Eric. I was gonna pick him next. But I guess I'll have to go with my boy Dracul Mihawk.
Nice.
Warlord of the Seven Seas, or seven of the Warlords of the Seas. One of the seven. Anyways, his sword, I mean, they mentioned like, oh, he can cut a ship in half with his sword, and they show it in like that clip show where he's murking all these guys. And just the way like his interactions with Garp and his interactions with Zoro when he defeats him, but he's like, hey, I liked you, like we're gonna fight again probably eventually, like don't give up. Like he's I don't even know if he's a villain. Like he's his own thing. He's more powerful than good and evil. He's just, I need to know more about him. This is what this show did so well. it made me intrigued enough to like do deep dive on the show and maybe read up on him or watch the anime. I did Google him to see what he looked like in the anime for sure. But no, this is why I'm picking him, because he was super mysterious. We didn't get a lot of them, but what we did get was like 10 out of 10 for me. So that's why I'm picking Dracul Mihawk.
So I'll just quickly comment on Dracul Mihawk, and you saying like you're not sure if he's a villain or not. Like I see him kind of as like down the middle of dabbles in a bit of evil, like will do some dirty work as needed, but also has a sort of code, and I can kind of compare him to a Balin Skull from Ahsoka, where he's like just down the middle, gray Jedi kind of thing, just tips his toes on both sides, and like you said, if he sees someone who's on the other side from him who he likes, he'll be like, you know what? I see something in you. Train up and let's have a proper battle where I don't have to use my mini sword against you and we'll have an actual fight. As soon as he whipped out that tiny blade, I'm like, he's murking Zoro. Like, there's no way this is going any other way here. It was hilarious. And it was a great fight scene, too. Like, that was one of my favorite fight scenes of the season, honestly. I found it was electric. And like I said, I was hoping he wouldn't kill Zoro. I didn't think he would, just based on what I knew about, like, Zoro was a GOAT character in anime. I would have been shocked if he died there. But, yeah, no, Dracul Mihawk, sick character. Like, I didn't think you wouldn't take him now, but I was going to take him at the turn if he got to me.
Yeah, great choice. And I love the intrigue of the seven warlords. I think, so just to like clarify, so like the warlords are essentially pirates that have been given this like almost immunity status by the world government and by the Marines to kind of almost like continue to do what they do, but while also being at like the beck and call of the Marines if they need them to like do some dirty work or something like that, right? So you did catch a glimpse of that, and I'm doing I'm avoiding spoilers, but you do catch a glimpse of that between Garp and Mihawk, when Garp kind of tries to get him to do something and he's basically just like no. Right, so it is a fine line. I think it's kind of surprising that he lets Zoro go. Like in the grand scheme of things, like it's one of those things. Like, maybe you want to kill your enemies while you have the chance. But yeah, I mean, like I love the intrigue that it's raised, and like in your mind, like Matt, you seem to like be really intrigued by Mihawk and also by like the other warlords. So. Basically just think like there's 6 other potential characters out there that and that's once again just one piece of the pie sort of thing, right? So yeah, it's really cool. Is it Matt again?
Yeah, Matt, you got back to back.
I forgot. Okay, I'm gonna go with Nami.
Damn it!
Next.
Right, nice.
I had why? Because
queued up.
She's eye candy of the show. I'm like fell in love with her, just like visually. Yeah. And also, the more the season went along, the more I liked her character more and more too. Like first, like I knew she wasn't totally like a traitor when she like gave the map to Arlong. Which that's the thing, the Grand Line. What the hell is the Grand Line? The whole show is super curious about that. Anyways, no Nami. I mean, you guys are gonna talk to about her. I just liked. She was a super solid character, and the whole like the finale of the season explains why she is such a great character and what she did. And yeah, Nami, I'm gonna go with Nami for sure.
I think Nami in the 3rd round is a steal because I actually had her ranked number 2. Like she was one of my favorite characters of the show, but I thought I could maybe scoop her up later. No, I was hooked on Nami one time from that first intro scene. Big fan. And a lot of depth to her character as well. Like her backstory was amazing. You can see why she turned out to be such a self-reliant and resourceful woman who would do what it takes to survive based on what happened to her as a kid. Like seeing your mom get gunned down right in front of you, like basically sacrificing herself so you can live on. Insane, very tragic. And I also knew that she'd come around in the end. That would have been very surprising to make her fully flip like that. But I was a big fan of Nami. And I swear, like I mentioned earlier, I'm hoping Zoro or maybe Sanji, I guess, end up with Nami, because I swear if Monkey D. Luffy bags Nami, like there's something wrong here. Like something's just not adding up. Mans has no game. Anyway, so that's my thoughts on Nami.
Do my buddy Luffy like that,
Man.
Yeah, no, like I thought, like I believe Emily Rudd is the actress's name that plays Nami, and I actually thought that she was maybe the strongest actor slash actress in the show. Especially, I think, out of the main crew. I think her acting was pretty spot on, and yeah, like the scene where Luffy gives her his hat like near the end of the season is one of the best. Like I probably, like I said, I probably saw that scene like 15 years ago, but I was just waiting for it because like it's, to me, like it's so iconic. Like, you know, that's one of the first times you get to see Luffy basically saying like don't mess with my friends, right? Plus he gives away his most prized possession, and which basically symbolizes like, you're not going anywhere. I'm not going anywhere. Hold on to this for me while I go beat the shit out of this shark, and then I'll come back and we'll be a crew, even though you don't want to be. Like we're a crew, like, you know. So yeah, great pick, great character, and I think the actress, like, kudos to her. She did a phenomenal job.
Yeah. Well, that was Luffy rizzing her up. Like that might be what made her flip on Luffy. Like seeing him as more than, okay, this guy's kind of a clown, drinks milk while the rest of us are having drinks at the bar. Maybe he is a little more grown up than I thought. Who knows? But no, great pick. Like I was gonna take her next round for sure. So now I'm gonna have to pivot here between two characters. Gold Roger is a standout. I think I'm gonna go in a different direction here, and this strictly for potential of character as well. And I thought he was a cool and interesting character from what we saw. I'm going with the homie Shanks, who, while we did not see that much of him, most of us watching probably assumed he died tragically, which is why his hat ended up on Luffy's scalp in future episodes. But I was able to shrewdly identify that Shanks lives on, and I was rewarded with my call with the scene at the end of season 1 showing us that he is still alive and kicking, and I think we're going to get a lot more of Shanks down the road. But let's talk about what we saw of him. He seems to have some sort of power, unless I completely misinterpreted the scene, over creatures of the sea, where he came in that standoff with the sea dragon and was able to calm it and make it retreat when it had Luffy and Shanks dead to rights in the middle of the ocean. So that was an impressive scene where we got to see, like, okay, maybe this guy is more than just a drunk captain kind of thing. Like, he's a Jack Sparrow with a bit more tricks up his one sleeve. So I think there's a lot to come from Shanks. He might even end up being a villain. Who knows? He's someone who is Luffy's idol, who got Luffy into the pirate scene. You could even make the argument that without Shanks, there is no One Piece. There's no show following Monkey D. Luffy's quest to become the king of the pirates. So I think it'd be a disservice to not give Shanks the respect he deserves and have him be picked in the 3rd round by me. So that's my pick.
Great choice. Yeah, it's a steal. It is a steal. And one of the, I know I keep saying it, but one of the other scenes that I was just like on pins and needles, like just waiting for, was that scene when Shanks loses his arm. Once again, I just remember how like powerful that was, watching it for the first time and seeing like how calm Shanks was about like he basically like had his arm torn off, and his main concern was just consoling Luffy, and basically just like, you know, just like giving him a hug and just being like, I'm here for you. Like the relationship between Shanks and Luffy is like, it's, you know, you can see Luffy's influence, or Shanks' influence on Luffy, by how he treats, you know, the people around him. It's very similar. Shanks is very kind of goofy, like happy-go-lucky, but, you know, people mess with his friends, and you know, he shows up, sort of thing. So yeah, Shanks is a great character. I'm happy to hear that he had a good impression, and I'm excited to see, what happens in the future with him in the show.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, everything you guys said, and I'll add like the look, like the actor who played him was perfect too. Perfect look. I thought they nailed it, and I love his scenes at the bar, like in the flashbacks, like his interaction. Like he's super funny and nonchalant, but then super serious when he needs to be. And I like that. Big fan of Shanks. So yeah, good pick, Eric.
Yep, thank you.
So do I get two now?
You get back to back,
Yeah.
and these are your last two, so just make them count because I got someone queued up.
Yeah, maybe I should have written stuff down here. So I'll pick. I mean, to me, like we are getting to the, and not to say they're bad characters, but just these characters probably wouldn't have been my choices if the wheel was a little more in my favor. But so I will go with Garp. There's not much left, guys. Like
going Garp.
Yeah, I'm going Garp. I thought Garp was a pretty consistently good character throughout the first season, and I will say that one of the few like large changes in the show was the Marines' presence throughout this whole like this whole saga and these arcs. In the anime, they are not being pursued by Garp and and the others nearly as close as it was portrayed in the show. And I think from what I read, they wanted to like add a little bit of urgency to what was going on. I think in the anime, it follows Luffy sort of just like meeting his crew members and like sort of going through that adventure, but there wasn't like as much pressure from like the Marine presence. So they definitely upped that. But what it did was it let some of the other characters shine a little bit. And yeah, like I kind of mentioned it to Eric, but the guy kind of reminded me of like a Gerard Butler sort of. Like I actually kind of like did a double take when I saw him at first when he was with Gold Roger, and and I just think he did a great job. Garp in the anime once again is like a little bit more clowny, like he's a little bit more just like happy-go-lucky, nonchalant. He's laughing like all the time, and he has this like really big belly laugh. And Garp was a little bit more serious in the show, but I think I think he did it very well. So I'll let you guys chime in on Garp while I think of a fourth.
I'll just go quickly. A few thoughts on Garp. First of all, tough name. Tough to take someone seriously with the name Monkey Garp. And that's my first initial thought, is like I just find it comes off as not intimidating and maybe even unintelligent. But that being said, Garp was a great character. I will say, like I love his dynamic with Monkey D. Luffy. Like that was a big twist. Did not see that coming at all. The grandfather-grandson angle. And then their fight scene at the end too, where he's a formidable foe. Like has he also consumed some sort of devil fruit? Maybe we'll find out in the next season. And the other thing is, my comparison for him was that he reminded me of Patrick Roy. Like almost spot on, honestly.
Yeah.
So those would be my initial thoughts on Garp. Marine's storyline, I didn't quite care for it, honestly. Every time they cut away and we got that bitch boy Kobe pulling up on the screen, like it just did nothing for me. Yeah. I don't know if he was on anybody's radar. I can tell you right now, I ain't taking him with my last pick.
Kobe.
Yeah, so I don't know. It's a bit too much Marine action for my liking, but Garp, I will say, was probably the strong takeaway from those characters.
Right. Yeah, I didn't mind the Marines at all, actually, but that is in part because of Garp. My boy Garp, from the actor, he's from Troy. He's Achilles' right-hand man in Troy, Brad Pitt's right-hand man. And he's also in 300, and that's where I recognize him from. Super, like he's got the super pale eyes, like you said, like Gerard Butler, and like I like that actor a lot. I think he's South African, maybe, or anyways, doesn't matter. Big fan of his character. I didn't mind the Marine scenes, guys, to be honest. It was like the different point of view, and no, I like that stuff. So good pick, solid pick, Curtis.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I think like the Marine scenes, they added some value. It wasn't like super rich in story, so Eric, maybe you weren't like super hooked just because there wasn't a bunch of background stuff going on. They had kind of added it in,
Mm-hmm.
but it's it kind of brings that question up like who even is a villain right now and who is righteous, right? Because like the Marines are kind of seen as villains just because they're against the main character and the
Right.
crew, but they are also sort of like the law enforcement, right? So it's interesting. Yeah, it's kind of a toss up for number 4 for me, and yeah, I don't know. I didn't expect it to go down this way, but I think I would have to choose Kuro or
Oh,
Clawhador,
okay.
just because of his rendition of the villain. I actually like sort of forgot how that played out because it's been so long. So to kind of see it and to see the actor's portrayal of the villain, I actually once again the villain wasn't bad in the original, but the portrayal was great. I think he was like pretty intimidating, had that like creepy sort of vibe that I actually like really do appreciate in a villain.
Yeah.
And the story was like pretty interesting. It was very impressive, and yeah, it was just a good character. They squeezed a lot of good villains in season 1. So yeah, Kuro, my 4th and final.
Good pick. Wasn't my favorite of the villains because of the likability factor, but in terms of intensity and fear factor, he was probably number one, honestly. He's the one who commanded the screen in the most terrifying way, I'd say. In that, while I most likely knew he wasn't gonna end up killing our main characters, maybe a few of them, like, or one of them gets killed by him. I don't know. Like, he was in control of the mansion scene, had them on the run. That had the most horror movie vibes of any of the scenes in this season, and I really appreciated that change of pace, and it was because of his character, not his two hench men and women
No,
there. They're bumpkins. You knew Zorro was gonna carve through them like a pumpkin on October 30th. Don't do that on the 31st. But yeah, so good pick. I respect it.
Yeah, it's a very good pick, Curtis. The 2 episode arc there was, I enjoyed that. Like I said, I could have binge watched, like Eric said, like I could have also binge watched this show, and it's for reasons that it always kept moving along. Like we got 2-3 episodes with this, and anyways, the 2 episodes with him were excellent in my opinion, and he was very menacing. I'm curious to see who you got, Eric, for 4, because I'm looking at who's left, and it's tough.
So in my books, there's 2 ways I could go, maybe 3, honestly, and maybe 4 if you include Kobe. But I've already made my stance clear on him. So I'm gonna be going with a character that was actually introduced in that same arc, which is my number 5 character of the show, Usopp. I was a big fan of him, honestly.
I'm just joking. I'm joking.
Oh, okay, no, I would have respected that. Just
Payback.
open resistance to that pick. But no, I like Usopp a lot, honestly. Like, he's definitely a clown of a character that probably resonates more with a younger audience, and maybe I am that person in this scenario, literally. And I think that his, like, just inherent nature to lie and exaggerate situations was kind of funny, and how he'd say, like, oh, I single-handedly took down everybody. Like, he knows how to command a crowd. He,
Yeah.
I don't know. There's something about Usopp that I like the charisma and wanting to be the captain. Like him butting heads with Luffy, I enjoyed as well. Like they're both talking about like who's captain, and then Nami and Zoro like do we tell him? And kind of like they're kind of like the parents of the 2 little kids kind of thing. That's how I saw those interactions. And yeah, I like Usopp. Slingshot, not the best weapon. Hopefully levels up in the next season, I will say, which is probably why he slid to the 4th round. But yeah, Usopp, another unknown actor. I mean, all of them are really, but great screen presence, and excited to see where he goes in the next seasons.
Yeah, I figured you'd go there. He's polarizing for sure. I was a little disappointed, and they did go in a bit of a different direction with like the way they introduced him. in the anime, like he actually had like a little band of pirates like in that town that they met him. It called the Usopp Pirates, and it was actually like him with like a bunch of like younger kids, and they all sort of like idolized him not because of his abilities, but because of the way he talked shit, basically, right?
Okay.
And he led them to believe that he was a great pirate king or captain. Usopp. Usopp in Japanese means lie. So his name is actually Lie.
Funny.
His character is built around telling tall tales. He's definitely more of like a comic relief type of character. They're like those moments that you see like with the banter of them like, you know, arguing who's the captain and things like that. That's like pretty typical Usopp. So you know like you know what you're gonna get. It definitely still a backbone piece to the crew, but like you said, it's a slingshot, you know, and the others kind of have a little bit more impact so far. So you know, I think that's why you see him slide a little bit in the draft.
Yeah, Usopp grew on me as the episodes were going along. I didn't mind him at the end at all. Like what you said, what he's doing, he's doing a good job of his like good representation of the character from the anime. He did a good job. So yeah, I would have picked him honestly, Eric, if you hadn't picked him.
Yeah, I was gonna
ask. Pick.
Thank you for telling me.
I have to pick. Although this character appeared in every episode, I will not be picking him, actually. I'll be picking Axe Hand Morgan as number 4.
Nice.
Can't pick Kobe. Kobe was too... I have a lot of complaints. But I'm picking Axe Hand Morgan, and I'll tell you why. This guy from episode 1, I was like, who the hell is this guy with the metal jaw piece and the axe hand? I'm not going to lie, I Googled YouTubed a lot of fights of the anime with him in it, and he's totally badass in those. That should have no bearing on this live action show, but I'm just saying... He was pretty cool and larger than life. His son, too, was pretty, like, his character goes through a lot, too, Helm Poe. But yeah, Axe Hand Morgan, big villain guy, so I thought he was pretty cool. We don't get a lot of them, but, like, I don't know, I like kind of he's like a military figure, takes pride, very regimental, strict, kind of like that about him. So, yeah, Axe Hand Morgan, number 4.
Yeah, didn't get a lot on him, honestly. He was in the first episode, so a distant memory at this point for me, but was very cool, honestly. I like the look of him as well. In like a cool looking first villain that you run into that really glued our characters, our crew, got them together, right? Again, I'll use the same lines I used before. Without Axe Hand Morgan, is there a Straw Hat Pirate crew? Maybe not. So I think he was integral to the storyline and a good first boss fight to set the tone for what we're going to see in terms of how these villains are going to look. Like, with Axe Hand Morgan right away, we're like, all right, we're going to be dealing with some funky stuff this season. Like, we're not going to just be seeing someone who's wielding an axe, someone's actually his hand is an axe kind of thing. So, he's more machine than man. He could be the Darth Vader of this series, who knows. But no, that's a good pick. I thought you were going to go a different direction, to be honest. I thought Chef Zeph was going to be your pick. But either way, a great pick as well, Matt.
Yeah, and that's kind of the beauty of, I mean, I've said it before, but like the genre in general, I find it's just like the sky's the limit, right? And with live action adaptations, I think you are a lot more limited, but for something like an Axe Hand, it's not out of the question, right? Like there's CGI aspects that would be difficult to translate to the live action screen, but the genre itself, or not even the genre, the medium of anime, it just kind of, I love it because there's so many different things you can do with it. Like, you know, it's a show about pirates, and like Matt, like you said, you didn't even know that going into it, right? And there's this show that's been running for 25 years now, and it's one of the most successful of its kind, and it's completely different than anything that we've ever seen in the West, right? And yeah, like Axe Hand was a good tempo setter. You know, he kind of like makes you ask like what else can we expect in the future? And I think that like it's you. The answer is you can expect anything that your imagination can think of, right? And that's the beauty of it. So yeah, it's a wild ride. Good pick. I think it's really rough if you're a Kobe/Helmeppo fan right now because like I don't know what you could have done with Kobe's character to put him in the top 12. I've also said it, I think, to Eric in the recent past that in the anime Kobe is like at the beginning like that. He's in it for I think the first episode or something. Like he's really not a big part of the anime. And so when my wife and I were watching, there were definitely some comments about Kobe's character, and I mentioned, oh, like don't worry, like you won't see much of him, like moving forward.
Poorly.
And yeah, like fast forward 8 episodes later, and he's like one of the largest screen time characters in terms of like just like longevity throughout the 8 episodes. He's definitely in and around. But I don't know. I think the character was always just sort of going to be a whiny, kind of annoying character, and like I don't think you can change that too much. So I respect your choice, Matt. I think you did the right thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we picked the best 12 we could.
So I'll do a quick recap of all of our teams, but just while we're on the topic of Kobe, like, and maybe predictions of what we'd like to see, what would make this character more interesting to me is if we do steer him down some sort of villain arc where he abandons the choir boy stance and just becomes like a full-fledged like villain, basically. Like I said, like just make him see a different side of the military that changes his mentality towards pirates and not being acceptant to whatever Luffy's trying to accomplish. I feel like that could make him a more compelling and interesting character. Right now, like I said, every time we switched over to him, I could not care less about what he was trying to do. And unless I missed something, his ascension through the ranks made zero sense to me. Like, how did he end up becoming the right-hand man to Garp? Because he knew how to tie a knot? Like, that was nuts to me. Like, I swear I missed something or maybe clue me in.
It was very strange, especially since I'm pretty sure he punched Helmeppo in the face while Luffy's crew was trying to escape. And then, like, for some reason, just, like, assault on a Marine was just overlooked. And fast forward, he's standing beside Helmeppo, who is Axan Morgan's son.
Yeah.
Who they mentioned his name once in the entire season. But he's just standing beside him while he has, like, a shiner.
Yeah.
And then he just, like, you're right, Eric. He just kind of, like... And that's the thing, right? They thrust this forward. It's not part of the original story. It is a little forced. And, from a Hollywood perspective, I guess they felt that they needed to add another element of urgency. So, that's the explanation. It's not a great one. But that is why they did what they did.
Right, you are. It is not a great one. So, like I said, I want to see him go down the villain route, and maybe you can somehow redeem this boring character. Anyways, so rundown of our teams again. So I'll start with Matt. So, in order, Matt, you selected Luffy, then Mihawk, then Nami, and then Axan Morgan. Very strong team. Then over to me.
Oh, yeah.
So I got Zoro, Arlong, Shanks, and Usopp. I think pretty good team, but potentially lost some steam as soon as I took Shanks. Might have lost the mainstream. And then the Usopp choice just blew my chances out the water. And then, so Kurtis, you got Buggy, Sanji, Garp, and Kuro. So if I were to give an edge right away, I'd be saying Matt probably has the strongest team. Nabbing Luffy and Nami or two, like that's you're pandering with those picks basically. Like that's just you're trying to get votes from people. And then Mihawk, arguably most badass character in the show. Axan Morgan also very badass, but I think Chef Zeph would have solidified the dub. Now you left the door open a little bit with Axan Morgan, so we'll see what the people think.
Fair enough.
But no, great picking. you know, it was fun. Like, I think this is a good way to get through a lot of characters and give them all their just desserts. Yeah. So, been letting this rip for a decent amount of time. Do you guys want to do some quick predictions on next season, and then we can look to wrap it up?
Sure.
Okay. So obviously, Kurtis, you kind of know what's coming. Without giving any spoilers, if you could hint towards a story that you'd like to see based on like an arc that you know is coming, I think maybe that could be a good way to steer like your kind of predictions. Or do you want us to give our thoughts first before you give like your thoughts on what you'd like to see?
Yeah, I think it'll be hard for me to speak to what's to come, like, you know, without giving too much away. I do want to just say this, that when I think of One Piece, I don't think of it as being like this really spoiler heavy, like, you know, like story. It's more of like, you know, an overall experience. So, you know, if you do pick up like little things here and there, like when you're researching or looking up stuff, like, don't think that that's going to ruin the show for you moving forward, right? Yeah. Especially with live action adaptations, sometimes even having a bit of a different spin to them. That being said, you know, without spoiling too much, you know, I don't know. I hope it's, well, I hope it's clear that, you know, that the crew is, you know, it's not set in stone. And what I mean by that is, you know, we could see further additions in the future. And I think the prospect of that, and given how rich and like entertaining the backstories were for, you know, what was revealed so far, I think it's always like really exciting when there's the prospect of like, and that's not even like the crew in general. Like, we already talked about the warlords, right? Like, just like how many characters they could introduce in the future, and just like they're just adding layers of depth and like building that world, building the story. You know, we've only seen one aspect of the seas, right? Like, they've already kind of hinted that there are multiple seas. Sanji wants to go where all four seas meet. So they're in the East Blue right now. They haven't even touched any of the other, you know, North, South, or West Blue. And the Grand Line is something, you know, on its own. So, you know, what you can expect is even bigger, even better, more characters, and I just hope they continue to nail, you know, the characters as they did in season 1.
No, great rundown. Matt, go.
No, that was good, Kurtis. What I hope to see is like the different, for lack of a better word, like cultures and maybe even races that exist in this world, and like them traveling to even like gigantic cities, or maybe even cities on water, like giant armadas or something. I don't even know if that's a thing. And maybe even show like go into more of the Garp Kobe, because they're going to be in season 2. So maybe like Kobe rises through the ranks of the Marines and becomes more like elite there. That's what I think is going to happen. Maybe I'm totally wrong. More backstory would be good too, but like I really want to see like different characters, and I know like what you just said, Kurtis, we will, but I'm very excited for that, and I just want to see different worlds and different. I don't know, like the color in the show, like the style, the setting of the show is the strength of the show, and I just can't wait to delve into more of it. So yeah, that's my prediction.
Yeah.
What about you, Eric?
I mean, I agree with those calls, minus the military. Give me less of that garbage. But I want to see.
I don't mind it.
And I agree with you too. Like the style and the color choices that the production crew used is fantastic. I love how bright and vibrant the look of the show it gives us. It's like a great contrast to other series we've seen of like Witcher, for example, where everything is very dark and grim.
Yeah.
This is a perfect flip to that in a less serious kind of show. So anyways, more on predictions. So I want to see the quest continue to find the One Piece. We're obviously not going to get there next season, but I want them to keep exploring different areas of the sea, and even if we could levitate to maybe some sort of airborne state and world, like in the sky or something. I feel like something like that, or underwater, something different, or I guess, on the edges of the middle ground that we've seen, which is all on the water. I'd like to see either above or below, if that makes any sense. I feel like that could be cool. I have no idea if they end up going in that direction in the show, but I feel like that'd be something cool to explore, like some Pegasus knights, some wyvern riders, something along those lines would be pretty cool. And yeah, I mean, new villains, I think they're going to just keep throwing them at us. And I wonder if we're ever going to see some deaths also out of our crew members. If I were to guess who is the most expendable, it'd be Usopp, no questions asked. And I'd be okay with that, honestly. I hope down the line they're not afraid to pull those shots and take out characters. Save for maybe our big three of Luffy, Nami, Zoro. I'd like to see them make it through as far as possible. But I wouldn't hate to see them take those kind of swings and axe hand Morgan off a couple of our characters. So that's kind of what I'm looking at, honestly. I can't wait for season 2. Like I said earlier, it sucks we're gonna have to wait a few years for the next one, but I'm just glad it happened. Season 1, what a riveting success. And yeah, I also more Shanks. I'd like to see him more in the fold as well.
Yeah, good call.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Guess you're gonna have to just keep watching and find out.
Yeah, I mean, obviously could go to the anime side, but I do like the element of mystery and not knowing what's to come. And time will pass where I'll kind of forget about the show as well. And then when it rolls around, we're like, okay, season 2's dropping in a few months. I'll be so pumped again, and we'll be going into it with a fresh perspective, not knowing what's to come, that it'll be great. Kind of like with Attack on Titan, for example. Like now, at the time of recording, the finale, allegedly, is supposed to air a month from now, and I could just easily go and buy the manga and read it and see what happens at the end, but I want to just go in blind and have my own theories on what's going to happen, and hopefully it's a satisfying conclusion. And that'd be a recommendation I'll rip as well. So I'll just also shout out Kurtis while you're here. You are the one who has pushed anime on me for years now, and I finally gave in, and I'm so glad that I did, because this genre is truly fantastic. The way they're able to tell different stories is just not possible in other mediums. And while we're talking about how One Piece has done that successfully, I think there's other shows that'll be almost impossible to replicate in live action. And yeah, it's just amazing art. The fight scenes are incredible. The characters are unreal. The depths, the emotional depths that they get to in these shows too is off the chain. Like almost every episode, people are breaking down, crying, and it's not really forced. Like it's earned emotional moments in these shows, and the storytelling too. Just I can't say enough good things about this genre, and thank you, Kurtis, for opening my eyes to it. And I've said it already on the pod, and I just mentioned it. I would strongly recommend Attack on Titan for anyone who wants to get into the anime genre. Unfortunately, though, I feel like I got into the genre with the best show out there, because I've watched a few other shows that I've enjoyed quite a lot, but Attack on Titan is on another level in my opinion. So that's my anime spiel right there. Throw it back to either of you want to take that from there.
Well, I'll just say that I don't know, I get this crazy just enjoyment out of sharing, one of my biggest passions with people. Just dating back to when we did our Hidden Gem episode, and I brought up your name, and I was so excited to hear Matt, what you thought about watching that movie after you said you were gonna go grab it and stuff like that. I'm just excited to share that and to hear what other people think. And it really is just a bit untapped. It's definitely becoming a lot more accepted and a bit more mainstream in the West these days, as I think people are seeing it less as a cartoon or a medium for children, and more of just a way to tell any type of story, but just with a different visual aspect, right? So any story that we are used to seeing on the big screen or in Hollywood, it could work in this medium. It's just you have to have an open mind, and you have to be okay with watching it in a different way. And if you can do that, like Eric said, your eyes get open to it, and the possibilities are now endless. Eric has a list of 1,000 shows that I keep pestering him about, and maybe he'll get to them, maybe he won't, but if you want them, they're there. So I'm really excited and happy to see that you guys are enjoying it, and I'm here for any recommendations if you need any.
Yeah, very beautifully said, Curtis. For me, like anime, endless possibilities, and I know, like, an admission here, like every anime show and movie I've watched, which is not a lot. Like, I've loved all the movies and shows I've watched. I know that if I deep dive, if I go head first into like an anime exploration adventure, I know it's gonna like eat me up and I'm gonna go all out. I know my personality. I'm like that with other movie genres. But anime is it's an aggressive, like, there's a lot of shows, a lot of seasons. I know it's gonna eat up my time, and there's a small part of me that like holds off on that, and like I limit my amount of anime I intake purposely because I think I'll fall in love with it, which sounds a little messed up, right? But I know how much time I have in it. Not like I don't have a lot of spare time, right? I know I could probably get hooked on the One Piece show. I know other shows too, like the big names, the Full Metal Alchemist and those type of shows. I know I probably love them. I watched Attack on Titan season 1. I loved it. What's stopping me from watching the other ones? I don't know. It's just there's like a blockage in me where I don't want to go all in. That's a whole other discussion, though, guys. But no, Curtis, it's been great, like, hearing you talk about this show. And Fred, we could have picked your brain tonight on the anime, right? Because I'm curious about that now. But there's only so much time in the day, though, right? So, yeah. Good stuff.
Yeah. But, anyways, I was just going to say, like, there's a lot of shows out there that you can watch anime. But, like, I'm watching now Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, which I just started that. Very good show, but I'm only watching like one episode a day, and not even every day also. Like, I can space them out, but they are very easy to binge because they're like 20-minute episodes, right? So it's easy to just rip through quite a few of them at a time. But I think it is possible to get into that genre and not devote all of your viewing to those shows. Like, I'm also still watching like Upload, and now I got Loki on the go, and like I just switch it up a little, and it's a nice change of pace. Honestly, I love watching it in Japanese. Like, you do have to focus; you can't be on your phone at the same time. But it's fun to just watch something in a different language, in its authentic form, and like the storytelling in there is just, like I've already said, incredible. So, no, obviously, like, we could have just kept going on a bunch of other anime shows there. Curtis, do you have any shows that you'd want to impart on the listeners for recommendations if they wanted to get into the genre? Would One Piece be that show, in your opinion?
Yeah, I would say One Piece is definitely not the show to get into if you want to start anime. It's very interesting to hear what you guys are saying about like seeing a portion and then wanting to know more, right? And I think if that's something that you're interested in, One Piece. I don't know like how many shows will rival this show in terms of its world building and its characters and things like that. It's just a massive commitment, right? There is a like fan made initiative called One Pace online, where you can watch like abridged versions of One Piece, and it cuts out a lot of like the filler, and I think like it reduces the length of the show like substantially. So if you are seriously interested in One Piece and looking further than the live action, I would suggest One Pace. You can just Google that, and they have like all the episodes online. In terms of getting into the genre, I think like Attack on Titan is one of the better ones if you're okay with like a bit of more of a gory adult themed show. It's very serious. There's a lot of action, a lot of emotion. Sometimes it's like hard to watch because of like just what happens in the show, right? So other than that, there are a lot, and it would depend on, I think the best thing that you can do if you're interested is like find what you enjoy watching outside of anime, and then find an anime that fits that style. There's anime for every single type of person, if depending on what you enjoy. There's like, you go to like the standard sort of action anime. Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood is one of the the most renowned, just kind of shonen anime, which is basically just your standard sort of action, like good characters, powers, like different sort of power systems and things like that. There's like more psychological animes like Death Note that takes more of like a realistic approach. That if you're not into the whole like the power ups and the fight scenes and stuff, it's more of like Death Note is like a chess game played out over a series of like episodes where there's more of a psychological spin to it. There's sports animes, like there's a couple sports animes I really enjoy. There's animes like there's this really popular anime called Vinland Saga that's about Vikings, and it goes back and basically explores like the journey of a young boy who grows up in Iceland, like way back hundreds of years ago, and his story about revenge and finding himself and battling his demons. And there's endless shows out there. So what I would suggest is, either find one of the ones that is renowned, or if you're interested in a certain genre of non-anime, find the anime that best represents that and dive in. And if you enjoy the story, like the animation should almost be like just a bonus on top of that. So yeah, that's what I would recommend.
Wow.
It's a great rundown, Kurtis. A lot of good recommendations in there. And yeah, just if it's something you're just unfamiliar with, like, take a shot, see if it's for you. I didn't really think it would be for me, even though like I've already talked about how like I was a big Yu-Gi-Oh! Pokemon guy growing up, and now the anime I've gotten into is definitely more adult, I would say. But give it a shot. I would recommend. And then worst comes to worst, it didn't really stick or land for you, but like Kurtis said, odds are there's something out there that could fit your viewing likes out there for you. So just give it a shot and see where it goes. Life's all about seeing what's out there, and trying new things out too is important. So, and especially in TV viewing habits, so they say. So good stuff. So yeah, Kurtis, again, 6 for 6. Who can forget, man? Just like knocking them out of the park every time. Touchdown appearance. And I'm going to edit that out in the audio version. The video version, they'll see all of this. But audio, they won't think I skipped a beat. So great episode, man. It was super fun discussing One Piece with you. Any final notes for the listeners?
No, just happy to be here. Happy to share some of my nerdy anime wisdom. I think we scratched the surface on this one. So if you guys want to have me back, and maybe after Matt does go for maybe not a deep dive, but maybe just wade in, waist high. That's all I ask. Like, we'll hold the lifeline for you. We'll pull you out if you need it. But at least, like Eric said, just give it a shot. I don't think you'd be disappointed. And then maybe we could discuss what it's like, taking that plunge in the year 2023 or beyond.
Fair enough. Yeah, Kurtis, thank you for coming on. Thank you, everybody, for listening. You were great again, Kurtis, as usual. I had a blast talking about this show with everyone. And Eric, you too, what you said was great. It was a great episode overall, guys. Good job.
Yeah, well said, fellas. So yeah, thanks a lot, everybody, for listening. Stay tuned for episodes dropping every 2 Mondays. Like I said, like the video, subscribe to the channel. We're trying to grow the YouTube. We appreciate all the support we get. Love you all, and yeah, peace.